For more than a week, investigators have wondered what made a mom drive her minivan full of children the wrong way down a New York highway, causing head-on collision that killed 8 people, including her own daughter and 3 of her nieces. This morning, the stunning answer. Police say this mother was drunk and high. Our Andrea Canning has more.
In the aftermath of this brutal crash, everyone was mystified. How could Diane Schuler drive nearly 2 miles the wrong way on a highway, killing herself and 7 others, including her 2-year-old daughter and 3 young nieces? 30 minutes before, she'd called her brother, complaining she was disoriented. But an autopsy revealed no medical problems. Police found her cell phone ditched along the road. Last week, we retraced her steps. This witness told us Schuler was driving straight.
She was in total control of the car.
But before Schuler got onto the highway where she made the fatal wrong turn, witnesses say she was driving erratically along this road, weaving in and out of traffic and honking her horn. So what was wrong? Tuesday, police revealed an answer.
Diane Schuler had a blood alcohol content of 0.19%.
She'd had the equivalent of 10 drinks, elevating her blood alcohol level to almost 2.5 times the legal limit.
Investigators recovered a broken 1.75-liter bottle of vodka. Toxicology also reveals that Diane Schuler had a high level of THC in her blood. THC is the active ingredient contained in marijuana.
The news devastated Mike Bastardi, whose father and brother were in the truck that Schuler hit. They were killed.
You know, just kind of like disbelief right now, you know, how someone could jump in a car, put 5 kids in a car, and drink.
Sadly, it's not uncommon. This woman was arrested after she made her 8-year-old son blow into her car's interlock device, which measures if she's too drunk to drive. She'd been arrested for drunk driving previously, and he called police.
My mom's making blowing my interlock. She was drinking last night? Yes.
In New Mexico, a teenager guided police to her father, who was driving drunk.
Slow down! You're going 90! Slow down!
Don't want to pull over.
I'm trying to. He's like going 100 now.
Meanwhile, for those who saw Diane Schuler before the crash, the news that she was both drunk and high is still puzzling.
If she was in the store and had alcohol on her breath, I sure didn't smell it.
Mike Bastardi says his family desperately needs answers.
How could other people not know? When you have 5 kids supposedly leaving the campground or wherever she was coming from, and you know, from the morning to when the accident happened at 1:30, these are all questions that, you know, my family want to know. We want to know the truth.
The truth about what triggered this seemingly loving mother to get behind the wheel in that condition, and whether her family could have done anything to prevent it. For Good Morning America, Andrea Canning, ABC News, Hawthorne, New York.
And for more, we're joined by William C. Moyers of the Hazelden Foundation, one of the nation's leading drug treatment facilities. He's an expert on addiction and has written a best-selling book on his own recovery called Drunken. William, thank you so much. We're looking forward to your insight about this. And the question people are asking, what was she thinking? A mom, drunk, high, getting behind the wheel of a car. The mindset. We're just baffled by this, William.
Well, you know, Robin, I think that's exactly the point. So many people are baffled. I think it's a stark and tragic example of the power of alcohol and other drugs in the mind and in the body of somebody who, according to reports, was a good mom, a good aunt, a good spouse, a good employee, a good neighbor. I think it really is a reminder that good people can do bad things, that moral people can do immoral things, that rational people can do irrational things when they're under the influence of alcohol and other drugs. It's a very potent reminder of what's at stake.
And you know what you're talking about because you have lived this yourself. You movingly talk about how you overcame your addiction. You even talk in your book about driving, smoking crack cocaine. You had children at the time, chose not to have them in the car, of course, when you did that. So you know what it's like.
It is. You know, I'm a recovering alcoholic with 15 years of continuous sobriety now, but I had to learn lessons the hard way. Thank goodness I didn't learn them with the consequences that have occurred in the case that you highlighted this morning. I mean, I knew the difference between right and wrong. I knew what the law was and what wasn't the law, but, you know, alcohol and other drugs hijacked my brain and caused me to make decisions that fortunately I was able to live with by learning from. And yet you see examples all the time, this one and many of the other ones across this country where people drive drunk, they use mood and mind altering substances, not only to their own detriment, but to the detriment of their own children, their families, and their communities.
Because the statistics are staggering. This is a huge problem. Parents getting behind the wheel in a condition like this with their children in the car.
Well, the sad part about it, Robin, is that we oftentimes are always lecturing our children about what to do and what not to do, telling them to just say no and all those sorts of mantras. But we don't spend enough time, I don't think, telling parents and grandparents what the risks are when it comes to them using alcohol and other drugs. You know, I work for the Hazelden Foundation. We treat people as young as 15 or 16 and as old as their 60s and 70s. And all of them have made conscious decisions to use mood and mind altering substances, not only to their own detriment, but at the detriment of others. And sadly, more often than not, there are consequences like this when people use these substances.
And again, we have no way of knowing if Diane Schuler was an addict or not. And so many people in the piece were saying, how could her family not know? How could others not know? So what are signs, if we think a loved one is in trouble, having difficulty, what signs should we look for, William?
Well, Robin, sometimes there's lots of signs, and sometimes, at least in this case, it appears that the signs that there were either were ignored or nobody could see them coming. You know, lost worker productivity, you know, legal consequences, financial consequences, obvious things like slurring of speech, repeated drunk driving arrests, and so on. But it seems like in this case that everybody was baffled, and I think again that really emphasizes that sometimes there aren't any consequences, there aren't any warning signs until there is the ultimate tragedy, which is apparently what occurred in this case.
This indeed was the ultimate tragedy. William C. Moyers, thank you very much again for your insight, and glad that you're doing well. Thank you.
Thank you.